Rita Heichenfeld, and welcome to Love Starts in the Kitchen. Hi, I'm Rita Heichenfeld. Today we're talking pots and pans. I get so many emails and letters. What kind of pots and pans do I need? What's the difference between the metals? What's a good value? Well, we're going to address all of that right now. The oldest pot, of course, is cast iron. And this is a cast iron pot. It's so wonderful. We've discussed this before. It holds the heat. Yes, it needs to be seasoned. Yes, it needs to be dried well, but it's great. It will never wear out. It's the original non-stick. And every time you cook in it, you get a boost of iron. So it is heavy. It needs to be seasoned. Now here's one. This is also cast iron, but it's enameled cast iron, so it never needs seasoning. It's oven-proof, holds the heat of foods. Mom used to take a big cast iron pot, big Lebanese family I grew up in, and every summer we used to visit our aunts in Dayton. In those days it was quite a trip. She would fill a big iron pot full of stuffed cabbage rolls. We called them mesha. And in that 2 hours or 3 hours when it took by the time she put it in the trunk till the time we ate, stayed great, really warm, very good insulator. These are enameled cast iron. Now on these pots, you can use metal utensils, not a problem. Now check your manufacturer's warranty on this. Mainly you can use metal, some of them you might need to use plastic or wooden. As far as seasoning a cast iron pot, never use vegetable sprays, canola oil sprays, anything in a spray. Don't use olive oil either because it will impart a flavor. And all these do is just gum it up. These sprays have many uses, but not for that. Just to season a cast iron pot, again, you just wipe it out with a little oil after you wash it real well. 250-degree oven a couple hours, turn it upside down, put a piece of foil on it, and it should be ready to go. So those are the iron pots. Now, I grew up too with cast iron, and Mom also had some aluminum. Now her aluminum pots were regular old-fashioned aluminum, not anodized like what we see today. And the problem with the old aluminum pots is no research has shown they don't cause Alzheimer's disease. But the aluminum reacts with acid foods. By the way, I don't cook acidic ingredients in my cast iron skillet. I do cook them in my enameled cast iron because the cast iron, the acid ingredients like tomatoes break the season. So anytime she would cook acid foods like tomatoes, a little bit of aluminum would leach in the food. That didn't harm us, but it made it taste funny, and sometimes the pan would pit. So if you've ever seen an old aluminum pan, and I've pitched all mine out, that's pitted, that's the reason. Well, because aluminum is such a great conductor of heat, second only to copper, manufacturers have put the pans through what we call an electrochemical process. That means you'll see on the box it will be called anodized aluminum. Starts out like the shiny gray aluminum, and they put it through a chemical dip, so to speak. And remember, I'm a layperson, so I'm trying to make this simplistic. After it comes out of this electrochemical dip, it turns the surface sort of a dull gray, non-reactive, just like stainless steel. So you can cook acid foods in anodized aluminum. Look for a pan that has a stay cool handle so that you can cook on top of the stove without your hand getting hot. Now the cast iron ones, the cast iron handles usually do get hot. So make sure you look for a stay cool handle. Look for handles that are riveted. They won't fall off, real important. And the stay cool handle works in this fashion. See this little V here or triangle? It keeps the heat from transferring. And this is stainless steel. And on its own, stainless is a poor conductor of heat, so that's why the handles are made with stainless. Now here's a great pan. Started out as an aluminum, but it also has a non-stick coating on it. Stay cool handle, wonderful rivets. And look for pans too that are oven proof, because oftentimes we start something on top of the stove and go to the oven. Now, as far as seasoning, this pan, the anodized aluminum, you can use metal utensils on it. You do need some fat in the pan, whether it's olive oil, whatever. So make sure. You can't put an egg in here without some fat. Don't ever use any of the vegetable sprays to season your pan or to put a coating of fat in there to make it non-stick. What happens with some vegetable sprays, the fluorocarbons or something in that spray can bonds with the surface of your pan. You get a yellowish coating. And sometimes if you're using a non-stick pan and you spray it, it will disqualify the warranty on that. You're better off just taking a little bit of olive oil or canola oil and just wiping the pan out with that. Or use those sprays that are not, that are just the pump sprays, and they're olive oil sprays. You can put any kind of oil in there. So remember, don't use cooking spray to season your anodized aluminum or your stainless steel or your nonstick pans. And if you do love the spray, or if you're really trying to low fat it, put your, say you're doing sauteing onions or some meat or whatever in the skillet. Put your onions, your aromatics in the skillet, and then spray those with the nonstick spray. That'll give them a nice coating of fat, and it will also make the pan nonstick. But remember, with nonstick pans like this, you don't need any spray, you don't need any oil. The surface is real slippery. You could fry a whole egg in this, it would slip right out. So we've talked about aluminum. Stainless steel. Stainless is a beautiful metal. It's non-reactive, which means you can cook anything in it. It's shiny, so if you're doing things like caramel sauces, you can see there's a good visual there. You can always use stainless metal utensils in those pans. And by the way, for the most part, non-stick pans, you should use wooden or non-stick or plastic utensils. Now, some non-stick pans allow you to use metal, but generally speaking, you want to use wooden or plastic. Now, remember I told you on its own that stainless steel is a bad conductor of heat, real poor? So you need to look for two visuals. On the bottom of the pan, what you need to look for is a pressure applied disc. Now, this has a bonus. This has aluminum that's wrapped in stainless, and then another disc of copper. Now, copper is the best conductor of heat. It's very expensive. I have some old copper pans that I just love, but they're high maintenance. So either copper or aluminum has to be somewhere in that stainless pan to conduct the heat. This happens to have a pressure applied disc of both on the bottom. Again, a great pan. It has riveted handles, stay cool handles. And I like this little feature. It gives you a place for your thumb. Now look at this. From when you first look at this, you think, uh-oh, I don't see any aluminum on the bottom, any copper. This must be a bad pan. Read your boxes. This happens to be one of the best stainless steels on the market. The reason is, it's instead of a pressure applied disc on the bottom, it has an aluminum wrap that goes all the way up. The cooking surface is stainless. Yes, you can use metal utensils on it. The outside is stainless, and in the center is that a thin aluminum wrap. If you cut this open, sort of like peeling an onion, you'd see three layers. Stainless steel here, aluminum in the middle, and stainless on the bottom. So you get surround heat. Instead of the heat being focused on the bottom and then crawling up the sides, it instantly goes up the sides. Great, great feature. These pans, of course, stainless, you can store foods in it. You can also put foods in the freezer or the refrigerator. Now, I wouldn't do that with nonstick or cast iron or aluminum. Here's another cute little pan. Of course, it's stainless. When you're looking for pans with lids, look for lids that fit tightly. You don't want it rattling all over. Also, look for a pan that sits firmly and squarely on the counter. If it's thin, especially with the flat top stoves, it will wobble. So make sure it fits really good. If you have a flat top stove with the glass top, and in order to make sure your pan isn't going to rock and roll, take a ruler or even take a spatula and just put it here on the bottom of the pan. You should see no light between the spatula and the bottom of the pan. It should be that flat. And as I said, a good lid fits tightly. And this pan has a nice edge. It has a little lip, so when you pour things out, it's not going to slop down the bottom of the pan. It has rounded, it's a belly shape or a bell shape, so you can get a whisk around there too. As far as cleaning your stainless steel, sometimes food burns on it, sometimes food burns on all pans. I'll just make a mixture of vinegar and baking soda, put it back in the pan, boil it for a minute, let it sit, and it's good to go. You can also use a stainless steel cleaner to polish them up. The cast iron, I told you earlier how to wash it, hot soapy water. Make sure you put a film of oil on it too. Well, that's it. I think I've told you everything I know about cookware, and I'm so glad you tuned in for this. Thank you. This is Rita Heikenfeld. love starts in the kitchen. Hi, I'm Rita Heikenfeld. Today we're talking pots and pans. I get so many emails and letters. What kind of pots and pans do I need? What's the difference between the metals? What's a good value? Well, we're going to address all of that right now. The oldest pot, of course, is cast iron. And this is a cast iron pot. It's so wonderful. We've discussed this before. It holds the heat. Yes, it needs to be seasoned. Yes, it needs to be dried well, but it's great. It will never wear out. It's the original non-stick. And every time you cook in it, you get a boost of iron. So it is heavy. It needs to be seasoned. Now here's one. This is also cast iron, but it's enameled cast iron, so it never needs seasoning. It's oven proof, holds the heat of foods. Mom used to take a big